Hey there. Welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 391. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is nothing really specific. At the end of every year, I kind of do a year end wrap up video where I talk about the highs and lows of collecting the previous year, and I talk about some of the things I'm looking forward to in the upcoming year. So, as I sit down to film this, it is January 4th, 2026. It's only a couple of days in, and I've already got some new action figures. So, these are my first action figures of 2026. This just came in the mail today from Amazon. This is a new Marvel Legends Inhumans pack. So, it's got Black Bolt and Triton. Now, I'm not going to review these figures today. Um, so, I might do a Marvel Legends video, after I've compiled a few more Marvel Legends to talk about. And then, literally, just like a half hour ago, we were out to dinner with my wife and her parents and her aunt and uncle, celebrating her aunt's birthday. So we went into the city, and while we were there, my wife wanted to go into this Asian grocery store that she's kind of obsessed with because they sell all kinds of cute little ice cream shaped like bears and penguins and things. So anyway, we went into this Asian grocery store, and she was buying like a cart full of ice cream, and I think she felt guilty because she was buying all this junk and I wasn't buying anything. So she bought me two little toys. These were $3.99 a piece, and they're probably the equivalent of like dollar store junk. I don't know, but this is like a transformer. So it's a robotic rhinoceros that transforms into a cube, as far as I can tell. Um, so I don't know. Like, you do see this kind of stuff at the dollar store all the time, and it usually is, really cheap plastic. It falls apart when you try and transform it. The fact that these are from a Chinese store, like, all the writing on the box is all in Chinese. I can't read anything on here. I don't know what these are called, or I don't know. I don't know if that means it'll maybe be of a higher quality. Although I am just noticing now, because there was like six different animals to choose from, and it looks like on the side of the box here that they all the different animals perhaps merge to make like a combiner. So that's kind of cool. Maybe I should have got the other ones. We'll see how this guy goes, and maybe I'll go back for the other ones. And then there was another set that are robots. Now I don't think these guys transform into anything. The box just kind of shows off their articulation, I think. So yeah, she got me this little red robot. So there you go. I've got four new 2026 action figures already. But otherwise, I'm not going to talk about any other specific toys really in this video. I kind of want to talk some numbers. So, first off, I don't know if anybody will be interested in this, but on every one of my year end wrap up videos, I always share my top 10 movies of the year. I'm a big movie buff. I try to get out to the theater as much as I can. I'm worried that the theaters are just going to go out of existence one of these days. So, yeah, I think I went to the theater almost 40 times this year. I saw 80 new 2025 movie releases. And yeah, so here was my top 10. I'll start with maybe number 10. Now, I keep spreadsheets of the movies that I go see, and I put a little ranking next to them. So the top movies on this list were all like 5-star ratings. And then I've got 4-star ratings, and that's usually if the movie is kind of like better than I expected, or like it was just really awesome. If a movie is good, or it just kind of met my expectations, which is most movies, I have them marked at a 3. And if it disappointed me, it gets like 2 stars. And if it really sucked, it gets 1 star. Now, this movie here, my number 10 spot, goes to a 3-star movie, even though I had other 4-star movies above it. So I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense, but it's Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. I love the original This Is Spinal Tap, and I've watched it dozens of times, and I was so excited about seeing a sequel, but I was worried. Is it still going to be funny 40 years later? Um, and it came out with very minimal fanfare. It did very poorly at the box office, which is kind of a bummer. Um, but the guys did a lot of press for it. I saw them do a lot of talk shows, like in character as the Spinal Tap guys, and the interviews were always really funny. The movie itself was good. I enjoyed it. It was funny, but I thought it was probably more sentimental than it was funny. Like they spent a lot more times doing the song performances than doing jokes. And I don't think, even though the songs are kind of fun, I don't think that was anybody's favorite part of the original Spinal Tap. So I wish they spent more time on plot than showing us performances and stuff like that. So yeah, it got bumped down a little bit because it didn't meet my very, very lofty expectations. But I am eager to see it a second time, which I wouldn't say about a lot of other like 3-star movies and maybe even some of the 4-star movies. I'd be fine if I don't see them again for years. But this one I'm eager to see again. And then the fact that director Rob Reiner, who's also an actor in the movie, was murdered last month, very brutally, very sad. That kind of that makes this movie resonate all the more because I've wanted this movie to be made for decades, and the fact that they made it and it's going to be like his final film. And if they had waited another year, this movie wouldn't have happened because they would have lost one of the main characters and the director. So I'm just thankful it exists. So yeah. Anyway, Spinal Tap 2 is in my number 10 spot. Number 9 was The Wolfman. Now I saw this very early in the year because I think it came out January, maybe February, and I really liked it. But I was also a little disappointed by this one because the Wolfman is my favorite of the Universal monsters. And if you've seen the new Wolfman, it's not a remake of the old Wolfman at all. It's a new original story. Um, but I just found the Wolfman makeup lacking. Like I liked the movie, I liked the acting, I liked the kind of slow burn transformation and everything. But yeah, just the final Wolfman left something to be desired. But otherwise, it was pretty good. My number 8 was the Fantastic Four, First Steps. Now, I'm just a Marvel junkie. I like seeing these characters on screen. I thought Fantastic Four was well done, but it could have been better. Plus, we've also had multiple iterations of the Fantastic Four already, so it kind of lacks the wow factor a little bit. Like I think they did a better job than the previous versions, but yeah, it didn't blow me away. So yeah, Fantastic Four, and also in the number 7 spot was another Marvel movie, The Thunderbolts, which seemed to get a lot of flack for not living up to expectations. A lot of people put a lot of weight into this, like, oh, Marvel really needs this to be a hit, and then it just didn't quite deliver at the box office. I'm not sure why it didn't. I thought it was a really good movie. I thought the stakes felt high. The characters, there was a lot of fun Marvel banter. Yeah, it was good. Number 6 was Nuremberg, which was just a very affecting movie. Like it's about the Holocaust, obviously, and they show actual Holocaust footage during the Nuremberg trials, and it's just impossible not to get emotional when you see this stuff. So that movie probably affected me more than any other movie I watched this year. So yeah, Nuremberg's number 6. Number 5 was One Battle After Another with Leonardo DiCaprio. I like DiCaprio. I like the director. It was original, which is just nice. These are the kind of movies you worry that Hollywood's not going to make so much anymore because you always hear that they just want to make sequels and big budget action and superhero spectacles, which I like. But I also like movies like this. So I was really glad that One Battle After Another did well, and it seems like it's going to be recognized at the Oscars. Number 4 was Weapons. That was a real surprise to me. I don't really consider myself a horror fan, but I do watch a lot of horror movies. And yeah, this was just, I guess they would call this elevated horror in that it's a little higher brow than a lot of the other silly teen slashery type of horror movies. But yeah, this one was just really well done. Really cool, great actors. Um, it's actually the third time that Julia Garner is on my best of the year list. I don't consider her one of my favorite actors necessarily, but she was in Wolfman. She was the lead in that. She played the Silver Surfer in the Fantastic Four movie, and then she played one of the leads in Weapons too. So I guess I am a Julia Garner fan now. Number 3 spot was Sisu 2, Road to Revenge. If you haven't seen the Sisu movies, I highly recommend them if you like extreme violence. And it's gory, but it's almost cartoonishly gory. It's like the Kill Bill movies when she's hacking everybody's arms off and they're spraying blood. it's not like a Saw movie. It's just like it's so gratuitous that it's almost like cartoony and it's not offensive. That's what these Sisu movies are like. It's crazy good, violent action. Check them out. Number two was Superman. Now, Superman was in my number one spot for a long time, but I was torn because I loved so much about the new Superman movie, including David Corenswet as Superman. I thought he did a really good job. Um, I liked just how fun and comic booky it was. I liked Crypto. I liked, the Justice Gang. That was all very fun. But there was a lot of stuff that I didn't really like. I thought the movie was kind of busy. I thought um, just the overall plot was it wasn't the best. Like the whole thing with the city splitting in two and this whole like digital river thing, and you got Metamorpho's baby. There was too much going on, and I didn't love all aspects of it, so that kind of bumped it down to number two. And my number one favorite movie of 2025 was Predator: Badlands. I've always been a Predator fan, but the first one is just so high up there, and everything that's come since, I like it. Predator 2, Predators, The Predator. They've all been okay, even the Alien versus Predator movies, but they're well below where the original Predator sat. But these last couple, I forget the director's name, but he did Prey, which was awesome. That was my favorite movie of the year a couple of years ago. And then this year he did Predator, Badlands, and Predator: Killer of Killers, the animated one, and they were all awesome. So I think these are probably the best three Predator movies since the original Predator movie. I thought it was great. So yeah, those are my favorite movies of 2025. Now, as for movies coming out in 2026 that I'm excited for, now obviously there's going to be a bunch of movies out this year that I don't even know about yet, but I think in the next week or two, a movie's coming out called We Bury the Dead, which is like a zombie movie that's supposed to be pretty good. I'm looking forward to that. Then we've got 28 Years Later, Bone Temple, which I'm a big fan of the 28 Days Later movies. There's a comedy called Breadwinner with the comedian Nate Bargatze, who's probably my favorite stand-up comedian these days. So this is his first shot at doing a movie, and we'll see how it goes. Fingers crossed. Then there's Mandalorian and Grogu, which I don't have super high expectations for, but looking forward to it. The Masters of the Universe movie with Jared Leto as Skeletor. I also don't have very high expectations for, but I want it to be good. I hope it's good. Then we've got Toy Story 5. I love the first three Toy Stories. I thought Toy Story 4 it took the story a little bit farther than we really needed to go. I thought 3 ended it, brilliantly as a perfect little trilogy. So I don't know if we need a Toy Story 5, but maybe. We'll see. I'm really looking forward to Supergirl, The Odyssey, the new Spider-Man movie, of course, Street Fighter. Again, I don't have super high expectations about it, but I'm curious. I hope it's good. Avengers Doomsday is probably the biggest one. Dune 3, which I'm not a huge Dune fan, but I enjoyed these first two, so looking forward to the third one. And then one of the biggest ones for me is called Werewolf, which is by director Robert Eggers. I've loved all of his movies. They're always like dark and gritty period pieces. So he did Nosferatu in 2024. Before that, it was The Northman and The Lighthouse and The Witch, all of which are excellent. So I've got high hopes for him doing a werewolf movie. I think that's going to be awesome. So yeah, that's movies. Now, I have a list for music, but I'll try and make this quick because music nowadays, like we all listen to whatever's in our own little bubble, our own little algorithm. So, you probably won't have even heard of a lot of the bands on my top 10 list, and I probably wouldn't have heard of the bands on your top 10 list, but I made the list, so I'll share it with you. I tend to I like punk rock. I like kind of 90s alternative rock. I like emo. So if we have some genres in common and you don't know these bands, maybe check them out. But okay, so my number 10 spot is a Canadian punk band called Propagandhi. The new album is really heavy. It's good. Check it out. Number 9 is Kele, who is the lead singer of the band Block Party. Now, I love Block Party. Kele has put out multiple solo albums. They don't always land for me, but this one I quite enjoyed. So this is Kele, The Singing Winds Part 3. Number 8 is Bush. And yeah, Bush has long been one of my favorite bands ever since they first emerged in the 90s. And I thought they've been pretty consistent. They kind of fell off the mainstream media attention, but their albums are pretty much always good. And this one here from this year, it was called I Beat Loneliness. Good album. Number 7 was Wet Leg and their album Moisturizer. Now, this band seems to have a lot of hype about them, so you may have heard of these guys. If you haven't, check them out. They're pretty good and they're pretty new. This is their second album. Number 6 is White Reaper with their album Only Slightly Empty. Again, a good fun. It's punk, but it's more rock and roll. It's good. Number 5 is Laura Jane Grace with Adventure Club. Now, Laura Jane Grace is the lead singer of Against Me, one of my favorite punk bands. Now, she has done a lot of solo albums in the last few years, and kind of like with Kayleigh, like I listen to all of her solo stuff, but they usually don't hit as hard as like the stuff with Against Me. But this new solo record, I would put it up there with the Against Me stuff. There are some lyrics that are a little cringe here and there, but it's just like it's a good. You find yourself singing along to it. It's very anthemic, really good album. Number 4, the Viagra Boys with their album Viagra Boys. These guys are weird. I like them. Maybe you will too. Number 3, Turnstile and their album Never Enough. This is another band that seems to has really kind of blown up and seems to be going mainstream. So you may have heard of these guys. Check out their album. It's good. Number 2 is The Hives and their album The Hives Forever, Forever the Hives. These guys have been a favorite of mine for 25 years or so. They've been around a while. And for Christmas, my buddy Miguel, who I've mentioned on the channel a couple times, he even made an appearance long ago. Miguel got me tickets to go see the Hives in Toronto. So, I'm stoked about that. I think that's March that I'm going to see the Hives. So, pretty cool. And number 1 is the band Ways Away with their album I'm Not You. So, yeah, all great stuff. As for music that I'm looking forward to this year, for live music, I'm going to see the Hives. I also have tickets to go see Offspring and Bad Religion. That's coming up pretty soon. What else do I have tickets for? There's another show that I have tickets for that is escaping me right now. And then for albums, that's harder to talk about because I don't really pay that much attention to what's coming out. A lot of times bands haven't even announced their albums that might come out this year. But some early ones that I kind of know about, Joyce Manor is a punk band, and The Gorillaz is the animated band by Damon Albarn from Blur. Anyway, those albums are both upcoming, I think, in the next couple of weeks. And then it's rumored that The Descendants and Social Distortion, both classic punk bands, they have new albums coming out this year, so I'm looking forward to those. Anyway, okay, so that's movies, that's music. We got that out of the way. Actually, I'm going to talk about another topic that we don't talk about on this channel as much as I would like to, but we're going to talk comic books.
Comic booking.
Okay, so I'm a longtime comic book collector. You guys probably know that because I talk about it all the time, how I started collecting comic books in 1986 when I was 8 years old, and I've never stopped. So, Amazing Spider-Man. That is one of the comic books I started collecting at 8, and here I am. I'm turning 48 this month, and I haven't missed an issue in 40 years. I buy it every single month. Amazing Spider-Man actually comes out like 3 times a month, so I buy it a lot. And if you've watched my wrap-up videos before, almost every time I've talked about the Amazing Spider-Man comic book the last couple of years, I'm kind of down on it. It just hasn't been great. It's been good, and there have been good stories but the overall arc, like a new creator will come on the book and they write it for like, let's say 70 issues, and they have like this overarching plan, and I find they always drop the ball at the end. So there might be some good stories along the way, but kind of the big story they were building to, they just never really deliver the goods. But anyway, they did a relaunch of Spider-Man in 2025, and Joe Kelly is writing the book, and so far I've been really enjoying it. So Amazing Spider-Man is actually a joy to read these days, which is nice because it hasn't been for a while. So I'm really liking Joe Kelly's Amazing Spider-Man. The Energon universe, I said this last year, I'm saying it again. It's very good. So this is published by Image Skybound, and it's the G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Void Rivals shared universe. And they're all worth reading. They're all really good. Jed McKay's Moon Knight. I said it last year. Say it again. It's still really good. The Conan comic by is it Jim Zub, and it's published by Titan Comics. I said it last year. Saying it again. It's very good. And I think I talked about it last year, but the Universal Monsters miniseries that are also being published by Image Skybound. So they've been doing these 4-issue miniseries. They started with Dracula, and then I think it was Creature of the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, and most recently The Invisible Man. The Invisible Man may have been my favorite of the bunch. Just 4 issues, but it ties into the original movie, and it was great. I think they're doing Phantom of the Opera next, which I don't have as much of a connection to that character, but who knows? I'm going to check out the book. The Hellboy universe, I always enjoy. That is perhaps my favorite, most consistent comic book universe out there. I don't read there's not much in the way of Hellboy books these days. They do still put out Hellboy stuff, but I find that most of the stuff I buy is just under the Hellboy universe banner, but it's actually about like side characters doing other things. But I enjoy them all. It's always a exciting week at the comic book store when I'm picking up a new like hardcover of one of Mike Mignola's creations. So that's really good. And kind of a nice new one this year was the Phantom. So that classic superhero with the purple costume and the little black domino mask, and he lives in the jungle in a skull cave. So I think we're only 3, maybe 4 issues into the new series, published by I think it's Mad Cave Comics that does it, and I've really been enjoying it. So check out the new Phantom book. As for comics that have disappointed me, the Marvel Ultimate line has been kind of a downer because it started off with promise. I even when it started like 2 years ago, I didn't think it was great, but I saw the potential. So this was like a new take on the Marvel universe. They weren't bogged down by continuity. They were kind of starting fresh. They did the same thing 25 years ago when they did their first launch of the Ultimate Universe. It was like a new starting fresh with all the characters. So we got to see the origin of Spider-Man and the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. But that ran for like more than a decade. And after that long of a time, it kind of lost its meaning because the whole point of it was to attract new readers because there wasn't all these years and years of continuity you had to follow. But after 10 years of continuity, it just didn't really make sense to have 2 Fantastic Four books going at the same time that were, at this point, kind of similar. So the Ultimate Universe went away. And so 2 years ago, they decided to do a new Ultimate Universe. So they didn't revive the old one. They just started a new one. And so I saw the potential there, but they have kind of dropped the ball all along the way. And now it's in the process of winding down. And it's a little unclear to us, the fans, if it was always intended to wrap up in 2 years, or if it's some just editorial decision that they're like, these aren't selling, or the sales are starting to go down, or maybe they're outselling the regular books too much and we don't like that. I don't know what it is, but they're ending it. And so far, I haven't really been thrilled with the execution. The Spawn books. Spawn has been good for a few years, but now I do find it's starting to get a little too big. For decades, there was one Spawn book you had to collect, but now there is Spawn, there is King Spawn, there's Gunslinger Spawn, there is the Scorched, and then there's all these little spin-off books like The Violator and what else? Right now there's another one called The Curse of Shirley Johnson, and then there is the Sam and Twitch, and like it's becoming a whole really wide universe, and it's too much for me to collect it anymore. And I also find the quality of the books it feels like it's starting to dip because I feel like they're kind of spinning their wheels, like they were spinning their wheels while they waited to get to the big anniversary issue of Spawn 350, and then once they got there, now they're kind of like stretching things out until they get to Spawn 400. And I'm just kind of losing my patience with some of those books. I actually dropped King Spawn when it hit issue 50. I'm planning on dropping Gunslinger Spawn with issue 50. I'm still reading the regular Spawn book and Scorched, but yeah, most of the other ones have kind of fallen by the wayside. There's been a lot of little miniseries by Marvel that I've been disappointed with. There's Spider-Man 94, which is supposed to be a continuation of the 1994 animated series. I think a lot of fans were looking forward to that because that show has a big fan base, but this was not what we wanted. It was kind of a miss. The Marvel vs. Godzilla miniseries was kind of a bust, especially when compared to the DC versus Godzilla comic book, which was actually pretty good. There was a new Ghost Rider miniseries that's still going called Spirits of Violence. It's pretty lame too. I think I'm 3 issues into the 6 issues that it's supposed to be, and I'm gonna buy the rest of it just so I have the complete little run. But I'm not enjoying it. So there you go. That's comic books. Now, before we get into action figures, that's why we're all here, I think, I want to talk a little bit about my channel. I usually give you an update on my channel at the end of the year. I just this week hit 3,000 subscribers, which is great. At this time last year, I was at 2.7. So this past year I had about 300 subscribers, which was about the same as the previous year. I had about 300 new subscribers. So if that is my, that's what it's going to be, 300 new subscribers a year, great. I appreciate it. I thank everybody that hits that subscribe button. Although I wish everybody that hit subscribe actually watched the videos, because if you look at my videos, most of them, on average, I get like around 100 views a video. So considering 3,000 people have subscribed and yet only 100 people watch most videos, like every now and again I'll hit one that kind of spikes and I might get like 400 views. Like the G.I. Joe videos tend to do better than other brands. But anyway, so it is what it is. And for views, so last year at this point in time, I had 560,000 views, and I had 85,000 views in 2024. This year, I had 70,000 views, so it's down some, for a total of 630,000. Like, I'm going to be, pretty stoked when I hit that 1 million mark. That just feels like a bit of an achievement to say I've had 1 million views on YouTube. That's pretty cool. So at this pace, I'm probably still, 4 years away from hitting that. Will I still be doing this for another 4 years? I don't know. I think I'm just about to go into my 7th year of doing YouTube. And this was the first year that I kind of slowed things down. I was trying to maintain a pace of a video a week. So even if I didn't post a video every single week, then I would try and catch up the following week by posting 2. So for the first 6 years, I posted 300 or 52 weeks a year. So I posted 52 videos a year. This year I didn't. It's not too far off from that, but there were times when I took 3 weeks off and I didn't try to catch up later. Anyway, what else? As far as earnings go, if you guys care, I did monetize this channel, I think 4 years ago, thanks to you guys, because you need to have a certain amount of subscribers and a certain amount of views to be able to monetize. So all those people that hit the subscribe button, even if they don't watch me now, they helped me. They gave me the ability to monetize. And that hasn't really changed for me. I get paid $100 less some taxes. So I get a direct deposit of about let's say $85. So I get that either about every 5 months. So some years I get 2 payments. Some years I get 3 payments. So this past year I got 2. So I got $85. So let's just say I made $200 last year. Although I'm expecting another payment next week. I got an email that says you'll get another payment. So I almost got 3 payments in 2025. But now that I'm into 2026, I'll start off with this payment in January. I'll probably get 2 more for the year, and that's how that'll go. So if you're somebody that's trying to get into YouTube and you're wondering how much a small little channel like mine makes, that's what you can kind of expect, I guess. $200 to $300 a year, which is, it's still great. I appreciate it. So thank you. Now, let's talk about the toys that I did get in 2025. I was reluctant to even share the number of action figures that I bought because I'll be honest, I'm a little disgusted by it. So I went back and I reviewed my last year's year wrap-up video. So my best of 2024. And just like I'm doing in this one, I talked about, so in 2024, I said, this is what I did in 2023, and this is what I did this year in 2024. So I made a little note of what I said I did in 2023 and 2024, and now I'll tell you what I did in 2025. So in 2023, I bought 431 action figures. Now, in my defense, I didn't necessarily buy all those. I got a lot of those maybe as Christmas presents and birthday presents, but really that was probably a small fraction of them. And that's too many. That's too many action figures. There's a reason why my credit card is maxed out, and it's because I'm buying 431 action figures a year. That's too many. Don't do that. So I made a vow. I said, I definitely cannot be keeping a pace of buying an action figure a day. That is sickening. So the next year, in 2024, I got down to 353 action figures. So I just barely made it. And I was disgusted with myself then. I said, okay, I did not come nearly close enough. I wanted to drop my number down a lot. Now, from 431 to 353, that is kind of substantial. That's 80 less figures, but it's still way too many. And this year, I said I need to do better. This year, I did 356. So I actually did 3 more than I did last year. So I guess if I say my aim was to come in at under 365, I accomplished that, but only by a hair. So that's bad. I need to do better next year. And by better, I mean worse. I get like lower numbers. I need to get that number down. I want to get, like, let's say 200 still sounds like a lot. Like if I told somebody in my, like a coworker that I buy 200 action figures a year, that would blow their mind. And yet here I am buying like double that. Can't do that anymore. But yeah, so let's break it down a little bit. These are the types of action figures that I bought. So my biggest collection was I bought 66 Marvel Legends. Now, in 2023, I bought 74, and in 2024, I bought 66. So the exact same number of Marvel Legends this year as last year. And I'm okay with that. Marvel Legends is still one of my favorite toys to collect. They're still producing a lot of cool stuff. I don't feel like I'm wasting money buying Marvel Legends. Sure, every now and again I buy a character that I didn't necessarily need because I'm trying to build a figure or something like that. But overall, even bad Marvel characters are still Marvel characters. They're like pizza. I still like them even when they're not so great. So even though I like characters like Star Fox and stuff that I get this past year, which are kind of lame, I'm still happy to get them just to add a new character to my collection. My next biggest collection, surprisingly to me, was DC. Now, this is a mix of the kind of 7-inch DC Multiverse figures, of which quite a few of them made my best of the year list, but it's also some of the DC superpowers, like the little 4-inch figures. So yeah, 56 this year. I don't even think I recorded how many DC figures I bought the prior year because it wasn't a super significant number. So this was a big jump for DC this year. Because yeah, I think McFarlane's been really nailing it this year. He's been putting out some awesome figures. G.I. Joe Classified. In 2023, 69 figures. 2024, 52 figures. 2025, 52 figures. So just like Marvel Legends, my G.I. Joes have stayed completely the same. Now that is just completely by fluke. I wasn't trying to do that. I buy pretty much everything they put out. So I would say maybe Hasbro is being consistent and I'm just consistent along with them. Now reaction figures. So this is a broad brand. Reaction figures are made by Super 7. They are the little 3 3/4 inch figures that have like 5 points of articulation. In 2023, I bought 82 of them. In 2024, I bought 76. In 2025, I bought 51. So that number is declining. And most of those 51 are probably Godzillas. Like there are other brands in reaction that I buy. Like I buy some G.I. Joe, some Transformers. They do bands. So like I got Spinal Tap. I can't remember if that was this year or last year. Some Conan reaction figures. But I buy a lot of these Godzilla blind box figures. I'm looking at them over here. And so I think between all the different waves of Godzilla and the Godzilla blind boxes, probably most of that 51 was Godzillas. Now, my next biggest category, this is kind of a catch-all. On my little spreadsheet where I keep track of the toys I buy, I have miscellaneous. So there was 48 miscellaneous toys that I bought this year. That could be anything from like the Jada Street Fighter toys I consider miscellaneous. Ninja Turtles I consider miscellaneous. Funko Pops are miscellaneous. So it's a little bit of everything in there. Masters of the Universe is one of my bigger brands. 2023, it was 45. 2024, 27, so a pretty good drop. This year, or 2025, it was up to 35 again. Now, I am a little surprised that Masters of the Universe was as high as it was, because that's one of the brands that I kind of feel is on its way out. Like, I collect the Origins line, and the Origins line seems to be wrapping up. They've done most of the characters that you would expect them to do. Sure, they put out some online exclusives every second month or so, but I am surprised that I got 35 different figures this year. I expected it'll be quite a bit less this year. Transformers, this was another one that kind of surprised me, because in 2023 it was 22, and even then I said the Transformers line was kind of winding down for me because they're starting to repeat characters, and I really just wanted one good version of all the G1 characters, and my collection over here is I'm getting there. I almost have all the G1 characters. So yeah, I had 22 figures in 2023, 11 figures in 2024, so I cut that in half. But this year it went all the way back up to 32. So again, kind of a surprise there, but I think that number will drop quite a bit this year. I kept track of my Ultimates figures, so that's a Super 7 Ultimate line. Now that covers lots of different brands this year. I bought 5 Ultimates, except 4 of them were all different variations of the Shogun Godzilla. So in the past, I used to buy like Conan the Barbarian Ultimates, Thundercats Ultimates, Ninja Turtle Ultimates, so I kept that as a separate category because there were years where I bought several from different brands like that. But this year, 5 Ultimates, 4 of them happened to be Shogun Godzilla, and one of them was a G.I. Joe Ultimate figure. Spawns, I bought 4 Spawns this year. I don't even know why I even bothered to really keep track of that. 3 of them were the Kickstarter Spawn. So I really only bought one other Spawn figure, which was the Rat City Spawn. So yeah. And then another brand that I usually always talk about in these wrap-up videos, but I don't really even know why anymore, is Star Wars. So I collect the Star Wars Black Series, which is the 6-inch Star Wars line, but it has been lame for years. There are so many aliens from the original Cantina, like the original trilogy, that I still want them to make, and they haven't done them yet. It's crazy that after 10 years or so of doing this toy line, they haven't done some of these fan favorite characters. In 2023, I only bought 3 Star Wars figures. In 2024, I bought 5. And even that's not really accurate because my cousin, I think, gave me 3 free figures like from his collection. So yeah, 3 of them were gifted to me, and then I bought 2. This year, 4 Star Wars figures. And I think one of those was like a little 3 3/4 junky one that I bought just for fun. So I might have bought 2 or 3 Star Wars Black Series figures. This line is on fumes, at least as far as I'm concerned. Nothing that they're putting out is interesting to me. So I don't know how many Star Wars figures I'll be buying ever again, really. So yeah, I guess that's my recap of action figures. Now, I've got some other, let me see. I've got some want lists. Maybe I'll go into that next. So every year on these videos, for those brands that I just mentioned, I usually kind of offer, these are the 5 most wanted figures from this brand that I hope we get this year. So for G.I. Joe, last year's list, I wanted Sneak Peek, Spearhead, Mainframe, Lifeline, and Short Fuse. Now, we already have Short Fuse and Mainframe. I got both of them right near the end of the year. And Lifeline is due out very soon. So they've already announced him. I've already got him on pre-order. I can't remember what his release date is, but it's probably early this year. So I'm going to take those 3 guys off of my want list. So for this year, Sneak Peek and Spearhead will remain on my want list, but I'll replace those other 3 with Fast Draw, Maverick, who is a member of the sub-team Battle Force 2000. I'd love to get all 7 members of Battle Force 2000, but we can start with Maverick. He's my favorite. And then Rampart. So Rampart kind of holds a special place for me because he was the last G.I. Joe I bought as a kid. That's where my collection kind of ended with him. So yeah, those are the characters I'd like to see. So there's a lot of other characters I'd like to see, obviously, and I'm sure we'll get them because Hasbro's probably going to pump out another 50 or 60 GI Joes this year. So characters like Airtight that I want, Muskrat. The reason I chose some of the characters I did over those characters, it kind of comes down to the figures I had as a kid versus the figures my brother had as a kid. So like my brother Doug had Airtight, whereas I had Fast Draw and Maverick and Rampart. So I always have more of an attachment to those characters that I played with as a kid. So yeah, there's lots of characters I want, but those are my top 5. Now, because I'm such a big G.I. Joe fan and there's so many characters that I want, I do a separate list for Cobra. So my Cobra list last year was Ice Viper, Heat Viper, Cobra La, which I kind of lumped into a whole category, Neo Viper, and the original Toxo Viper. Now, we didn't get Ice Viper, Heat Viper, Neo Viper, or Toxo Viper. Now with Cobra La, we already got Nemesis Enforcer previously. This year we got Pythona. They've already announced that they are going to do the Royal Guard. So really the only member we're missing is the leader, Globulus. So I will keep him in that same spot because we still need a Globulus. They haven't made any announcements about that. So my Cobra list remains the same. Now we'll go into Masters of the Universe Origins figures. Last year, my wants were Too Bad, Dragon Man, Zodak, and this is the African American Zodak with the glow in the dark tattoos on his body from the 2000 X line. Batros and Voltak. Now, out of those 5, we got Voltak. He was included in the cartoon collection. So I will replace him with Calyx. This is another Horde member that only appeared in the cartoon. He wasn't in the vintage toy line. But since they gave us Voltak, maybe they can give us Calyx. So that's my 5 for Masters of the Universe. For Transformers, my want list last year was the Predacons. So I kind of lumped all 5 of them together. Now, the Predacons have been released in the last few years. My reason for wanting them again is because I have the last set of Predacons, but I have them all combined into the Combiner, the large robot Predaking. But I'd like to get another set so I can display the individual Predacons, on my shelf as individual robots like Razor Claw and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully we get new versions of the Predacons. My other want was Windcharger, and then the Insecticon Venom, and then the Decepticon Justice Division, which I kind of lumped together. They're also like a team of characters from the comic books. So we got Venom, and Windcharger is announced. I have him on pre-order. I should probably be getting him very early this year, maybe sometime this month. So to replace those 2 on my list, I'll keep the Predacons, I'll keep the Justice Division. Since there's not too many G1 characters I still want, I'm going to ask for a re-release of the Runabout figure. So Runabout was a Target exclusive, and I didn't get him because we don't have Targets in Canada. And on the secondary market now, he sells for like $200. And I hate that I'm missing him because he's like a little pair. It's Runabout and Runamuck. And I got Runamuck, and I hate having Runamuck on my shelf without having Runabout with him. So they've been doing a lot of these re-releases lately. Characters that were really hard to get on the secondary market, they have been re-releasing. For example, like Thrust just got re-released. I'm not sure who else. But anyway, since that does seem to be a trend that they're doing, that's what I want. I want them to re-release Runabout. And then the other figure I would add to this list is, I'm just going to kind of go in general and say the cassettes. I don't have too many good versions of the cassettes, either the Decepticons or the Autobot cassettes. And I mean like none of them. I don't have a good Rumble, I don't have a good Frenzy, I don't have a good Ravage, Laserbeak, Buzzsaw. Now I know they've made some of these guys. There was a Rumble and Frenzy in the Studio series, but I never saw them, and they sold out everywhere. I know there's like a new version of Soundwave, and these guys come packaged with him. It would be really nice if they just gave us a set of all the cassettes, so I could kind of knock them all off my list at once. So not only could I get those key, G1 cassettes that everybody knows from the cartoon, but I could also get some of the more obscure ones that came out later in the line. Like I really liked Ram Horn, the little red rhinoceros one. I had him as a kid. So yeah, I would like nice new versions of all the cassettes. So yeah, those are my want lists for Transformers. Um, Marvel Legends, my want list last year consisted of, and I cheated a little bit here because I went with groups. So the Serpent Society, it's a big team of all snake themed villains. We got some members in the past, but the three, like my three favorites, Sidewinder, Diamondback, Death Adder, we still haven't got them. So I'll keep the Serpent Society on my list. The Guardians of the Galaxy, the original Guardians of the Galaxy, we still only have, I think, 2 members of that team, so there's a bunch more that we need, so I'll keep that one on my list. The Slingers, we still don't have any of the 4 Slingers, so they're still on my list. Cypher from the New Mutants, we haven't got a figure of him yet, so he will remain. And lastly, Slapstick. No action figure of him yet either. So my Marvel Legends want list is going to remain the same as it did last year. Also on my want list, just miscellaneous. I say this every single year. I would love to see some company revive the Battle Beasts. This was one of my favorite toy lines from when I was a kid. I still have all the vintage toys, and they're basically perfect. But it would be nice to have new versions, because sometimes I'm scared to handle my old ones. I don't want them to break. So nice new versions. I'd be happy even if they just re-released the old ones, just so I had a newer, fresher one that I felt more comfortable handling. But I'd really like to see them kind of blown up to like a 5.5-inch scale, more articulated than the vintage figures. I think that would be awesome. And the other toy line I'm always asking for is Tank Girl. Now, this past year, I actually finally got a Tank Girl Funko Pop. It is the first ever Tank Girl like figurine, so I was happy to get that. But it's still not really enough. Like, if that's all I ever get, fine. At least I have something. But I'd really like to get a line of like 6-inch action figures of Tank Girl, or I would take reaction figures, even if it's Funko Pops. The one Funko Pop they gave me, she's attached to her tank. She's permanently, it's just her head poking out of the tank. If they gave me a whole line of Tank Girl Funko Pops so I could get Jet Girl and Booga and all the other characters in the line, it wouldn't be ideal, but I'd take it. But yeah, I'd really like 6-inch kind of Marvel Legends style of all the Tank Girl cast. That would be amazing. So yeah, those are my want lists. Now, the one other kind of little note I kept here on my phone on like what I could talk about this year was some things that I really liked in 2025, things that I didn't like in 2025. Now, for things I liked, for like the good stuff, I would say G.I. Joe Classified and Marvel Legends. These lines, they catch a lot of hate. Like, obviously, they're very popular and they have a lot of fans. But there's so many people that, dump on them and complain about, oh, their character selection is no good or this, that, and the other. I try to stay pretty positive on this channel, and I think they've been doing an amazing job. Of course, they can't make every figure exactly like how everybody would want it to look. I might want a character in one costume, but somebody else wants that same character in a different costume, and they can't make that same character twice in the same year, especially if we're talking like a C tier character. So yeah, one of us is going to win out. I get it that I'm not always going to get the version of the character that I want the most, but they've been giving us a good array of new obscure characters like Star Fox, who I mentioned earlier, but they're also upgrading the figures that I already have plenty of versions of. Like on my best of the year list, I was surprised to put a Captain America on my list because I already have a bunch of different versions of Captain America. I wasn't planning on buying any more Captain Americas, but this new one is just so nice. So yeah, the Thanos as well. So yeah, they keep putting out nice new versions of characters that we have, which allows collectors like me to upgrade, but it also allows people that are just getting into the line to get great versions of these characters, and they don't have to wait 10 years and hoping they release another version of Captain America. But they're also still giving us those weird, obscure characters. G.I. Joe Classified, they are doing a lot of the key characters from the vintage toy line, but they're also throwing in a lot of new creations like the Ghost Viper and the Grim Viper. They are kind of giving us new looks for some of the characters, and then they give us the retro card look, which is more classic. So they're kind of covering all their bases. Most of the figures have been home runs. There's very few G.I. Joe Classified figures that I've been disappointed with. So those are great. Transformers and Masters of the Universe, they're also both doing very well. I'm pleased with what I'm getting, and in a weird way, I'm pleased in what I'm not getting. The fact that Transformers has kind of shifted away from G1 a little bit, and now they're doing this whole, what do they call it? Like Age of the Primes, and they're doing figures of all the ancient primes, which are like kind of the gods of the Transformer universe. This is stuff I'm not interested in. The figures look nice, but I'm happy they're veering away from the G1 characters because I already have a pretty close to complete collection. And I don't want them to just keep improving and doing the same characters over and over again that I feel the need to upgrade these characters over and over. I like that they're kind of letting me be. You've got what you've got. Now we're going to move on to entertain like the next generation of Transformers fans. And it's not for me. Just like when they put out Beast Wars in the 90s. I was fine with it. It wasn't my Transformers. I didn't collect it, but I'm glad some other kids are discovering it. So yeah, this Age of the Prime stuff, please Hasbro, continue to go down that road and don't make me buy new versions of Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. Just fill the holes in my collection that are still there. Same as Masters of the Universe. I like that they're throwing in some new characters this year. Like we got Stingor, and we got the sketchbook editions of characters like Cyclone and Spikor. Those are pretty fun. But yeah, the line definitely is kind of winding down. If they want to put their money into like the Masterverse New Eternia figures, which is things I'm generally not interested in, great. I'm glad to see He-Man is still, still going. It's still doing well. It's still getting new fans. Like with the new movie coming out, I'm sure they're going to do figures based on the new movie. I'm going to try really hard not to collect them. Even if the movie's good, I'm like, I don't need these movie figures. These are for new fans, but they're not for me. So again, I'm happy with the direction both those lines are going. Um, as for upcoming toy lines, there's a new Image line coming from McFarlane Toys where he's going to do some of the early Image characters like Savage Dragon and Shadowhawk. There's not too many characters in that line that I would feel the need to collect, but I think I would probably at least get the two that I just mentioned. I think that line could be a lot of fun. There's a new Hellboy line coming out from Boss Fight Studios. They are overpriced, which kind of sucks because I would like to buy all of them. I'm not sure I can collect the whole line when they're going to cost me like $70 a piece for like a 5.5 inch figure. So I haven't pre-ordered any of those yet, but I probably will get at least some. I'm excited about how they look, just not excited about the price. And also, Boss Fight Studios also has upcoming Conan figures. A lot of companies have upcoming Conan figures. This category here is almost in my pro and my con column. As a Conan fan, it's great that we're getting so many different varieties of Conan, but at the same time, he's essentially just one guy. Like you can't really build a whole toy line around him, and I just don't want to buy so many different versions of Conan. Like I've got him in the Super 7 Ultimates line, I've got him in the Super 7 Reaction. Now they're doing him in like the 5.5 inch, and then you've got other companies like Frazetta Girls doing him in like an elaborate 7-inch scale. Then you've got like the 112 Mezco figures where he's got cloth clothing. There are literally like 8 companies doing Conan figures now, and they all look good. And it's hard for me to know which one to buy. It's overwhelming. So I wish they would kind of cool it on Conan, but at the same time, having too many is much better than having nothing. As a Conan fan, for years and years, there was no action figures to buy, so it's kind of a glorious time to be a Conan fan. Now, having said that, now I'm going to get into the bad. What disappointed me in 2025. It was a bad year for Red Sonja. So, like Conan, she's kind of a spin-off character from the Conan universe, and I'm a big fan of Red Sonja as well. But I feel she's been kind of mistreated lately. For like a decade, they've been publishing Red Sonja comic books over at Dynamite, and I wish she would go to another company. I'm just not a fan of Dynamite, and but I did decide to start collecting her newest comic book that just launched a couple of months ago called Sonja Reborn. It's still published by Dynamite, so my expectations were low. But I started collecting it, and I haven't liked it. So 4 issues in, it's not great. I don't know how long the series is going to run, but I think I'm probably going to jump ship by like issue 5 or 6 if it doesn't improve, and I don't really expect that it will. Um, for like a good 10 or 15 years, maybe more, they've been talking about making a new Red Sonja movie, and I've really wanted to see that done well. Um, Rose McGowan was supposed to be Red Sonja, but that might have been 20 years ago when they first released those images, maybe even longer. So it's been a really, really long time in kind of like development hell. And then this year, it seemed like there was finally going to be a new Red Sonja movie, except there was a lot of, or I guess I would say there was not much news. You didn't hear much about it. There was no trailers. So you're like, what's going on with this movie? Are they not advertising it because it's no good? Is it going to end up direct to streaming? Anyway, it came out, and I think it had a very limited theatrical release. It tanked. I think you can now rent it on streaming services. I rented it and watched it digitally, and I was disappointed by it. I didn't hate it. In fact, I bought the Blu-ray, so I'm going to be watching it again very soon. But this movie on my little spreadsheet, this was only a 2-star movie. So it's out of the 80 movies that I watched this year, there's probably only about 10 of them that were 2 stars and below. So this is one of the worst rated movies on my movie list this year. But I just like this character and I want to like this movie, so I try and find the silver lining, even though some of the effects are really bad and the storyline is pretty unoriginal. Like this actress, who I'm not really familiar with, Matilda Lutz, I think she does a good job as Red Sonja. I think she looks good. She's believable, swinging the sword around and everything. I liked her in the movie. I wish there was more on the DVD to kind of get me excited, but it says there's a featurette. That's probably 5 minutes of entertainment, and that's it. There's no other bonus features. But last year, I felt kind of the same way with the Crow movie. The Crow, the original Crow, is my all-time favorite movie. And based on my love of that movie, I have read every single Crow graphic novel that has come out in all the last 30 years. None of them have lived up to the original, but I own all the Crow movies, even all the bad sequels. There were 3 or 4 bad sequels. So when they were going to remake the original Crow last year, my expectations, well, I wouldn't say they were super high because I was already worried about it, but that movie definitely did not live up to even my minimum expectations. It was such a disappointment. It was a 2-star rated movie for me, and yet I still bought the Blu-ray as soon as it came out, and I've watched it 2 or 3 times since. It's just my love of the franchise. And that's sort of like with Red Sonja here. I will watch this again, but the comic book has been disappointing. The movie was disappointing. And on top of all that, there were some new action figures of her. After decades of a drought of no Red Sonja action figures, again, multiple companies were making them. So I pre-ordered this Red Sonja figure from Boss Fight Studio, which was black and white, except for her red hair and some red blood spatter on the figure. And this thing was a Diamond Distributors exclusive figure. So there was a standard colored version of the figure, and then there was the black and white one. Now both versions look nice, but I thought the colored version looked too similar to another Red Sonja figure that I'd bought from a company called Loose Collector. So I didn't want to have 2 figures that looked pretty close to the same. So I thought I'll buy the black and white one. This black and white Red Sonja figure has been consistently delayed and delayed. My pre-order the release date keeps getting pushed back a month, and then another month, and then another month. And then just like in December, my pre-order finally got canceled, and they say we cannot fulfill your pre-order. So I actually emailed Boss Fight Studios, and I said, what is going on with this figure? Is it ever coming out? Because my pre-order just got canceled. And they said, because this was an exclusive to Diamond, and Diamond filed for bankruptcy, we don't have an avenue to release this figure right now. So we have the figure, and it will eventually probably be released, but we just need to sort out how we're going to release it. So God knows when that will be. So I waited all year for this Red Sonja figure because I think it was originally slated to come out in April. And then it got pushed back until it was canceled. So considering that the comic book has been disappointing, the movie disappointing, and then I never got the figure that I was waiting for, it's been a bad year for Red Sonja, but who knows? Maybe things will turn around. My biggest gripe about toy collecting is the price. The prices on everything have gone up, and it's getting pretty crazy. It's getting pretty hard to keep up with this stuff. It's a lot. I've already complained about Star Wars toys, but yeah, that's a big for me. Another line that kind of surprised me is Action Force by Valaverse. Now, if you've been following my channel for a long time, I've been a fan of the Action Force line since the get-go. I backed the original Kickstarter. I went all in on that. I bought duplicates of some of the figures just to kind of help the Kickstarter get funded. I even had Bobby Vala, the owner of Valaverse, on my channel to do an interview because he was willing to reach out to basically any YouTube channel that would have him so he could kind of drum up interest for his toy line. And so, yeah, I was very supportive. I went all in on Wave 1, Wave 2, Wave 3. And I just feel like I didn't buy any Action Force figures this year. I just have completely lost interest because none of the figures he's been producing have interested me. They just feel kind of dull and uninspired. And I really hope that kind of turns around because I thought they were really great. Just a couple of years ago, one of his original characters, Pandora, she was my #1 action figure of the year. This is probably like 3 years ago. And now I'm not even buying any of his new action figures that he puts out. He released a newer version of Pandora, and I think it looks bad. So I would have been happy to buy an upgraded version of her, but even the face sculpt is worse. Like I don't know what's going on over with that line. I wish him success, but it's just not really appealing to me. So it would be nice if that kind of turned around. I have mixed feelings about McFarlane Toys losing the DC license. The DC license is now going back over to Mattel. That was big toy news this year. But I wasn't collecting a whole lot of the McFarlane stuff for a long time, so I wasn't too concerned about it. But as I said earlier, this year he really seemed to find his footing, and he's been putting out awesome figures. So now I am kind of bummed that he's losing the license because I think if he kept it, he would continue to put out a lot of really nice stuff, and he would have continued the Superpowers line, which I was really sad to see that cancel because sort of like the reaction figures I mentioned before with G.I. Joe and Transformers getting canceled before they did all the key characters. I was really enjoying collecting the DC Superpowers line, but it ended and there were so many key characters that we didn't get. Like we didn't even get the Joker or Lex Luthor. There's so many villains missing. Wonder Woman was the only female character in the whole line. So no Batgirl, no Batwoman, no Catwoman. Like there's so many characters that we could have got. So if McFarlane had kept the DC license, we probably would have got more of those things. So that's kind of a bummer. Also on McFarlane, he did a wave of Pacific Rim figures that were pretty cool because you got one of the Jaegers and one of the Kaiju, plus you got a little piece of road, and you got some little tanks, and you got a destroyed building and a comic book all in one affordable package. Now, I understand that maybe some people were disappointed by them because the previous Pacific Rim figures from like NECA and Bandai and stuff were bigger figures, and so McFarlane had shrunk them down to kind of like reaction figure size. So I understand that some people were like, these are too small. But for me, I kind of thought they were great because now they fit in really nicely with my Godzilla reaction figures. And those little buildings and streets gave me a nice little diorama to display my Godzilla reaction figures amongst them. And I was really hoping we would get another second wave or third wave. There's really not that many characters in the Pacific Rim universe for him to even have done. So after 3 waves, he probably would have done all the key characters. But he stopped after 1 wave. And now this year, it's been a complete year with nothing. So I think it's safe to say he's not planning on doing anymore. And I'm pretty bummed about that. And the last thing on my list that I had to talk about was the state of Super 7. They don't seem to be doing great. Now, I don't know. I don't really have any insider information other than what the owner, Brian Flynn, says himself when he does YouTube interviews on other channels. But a lot of their toy lines seem to be getting like canceled or fizzling out before they're done. They've lost some key licenses, like they lost their Disney license, so they had to stop making Simpsons figures and Nightmare Before Christmas figures and all their other Disney related stuff. They had 2 storefronts, and both their storefronts recently closed down, so now they have no more physical representation. They've been the announcements for their new lines have been getting slower and slower. Like they have fewer licenses to work with. That I'm worried that they might be really struggling. He has said as much with the tariffs that it's really hard for him to produce the toys. And so yeah, Super Seven. I hope they bounce back. Like if they went bankrupt and disappeared, I would be very sad about it because this is another company that people seem to like to dump on because they've had some problems in the past. They've had some quality control issues. But overall, I've been a big fan of Super 7. I think Brian Flynn seems like a really nice owner and pretty good communicator. And lots of public appearances, tries to keep his fans informed. He does a wide variety of lines. And Super Seven figures have been on the top of my best of the year list a few times. And yeah, I think it'll be a pretty big void if Super Seven goes away. So let's hope that that doesn't happen. Anyway, so I think I've went much longer than I expected to. So thank you for sitting through this, my 2025 year in review. Hopefully, there's lots to talk about and lots to look forward to in 2026. So make sure you like and subscribe. Tune in for the next video. Leave me comments below, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.